everyone, my name is Amber, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be talking about my 19 most anticipated releases for 2020. I have a really good mix of YA and adult books here, as well as various different genres like thrillers, horror, fantasy, urban fantasy, contemporaries, so hopefully there will be something for everyone here and I will bring some new books to your attention. First one that I absolutely have to mention right now is Empire of Gold. This is the third book in the City of Brass trilogy and it's the series finale, and I am so excited for it. The first two books were ones that I read in 2019 and I absolutely fell in love with them. I've reread The City of Brass already and I'm definitely going to have to reread both of the books before I start this one. This is an adult fantasy trilogy. It's about a main character called Nari who discovers the world of the Jinn, and she is taken to the City of Brass and she gets involved in the politics of the palace and meets various different magical creatures, and she is meant to have healing powers but she can't quite grasp them and we don't really know why. It's honestly so well written and I loved it, and I loved the Middle Eastern mythology that was woven in there. I can't recommend this trilogy enough and I'm so excited but also nervous about the third book because it's going to be great but it's also definitely going to make me cry. The Other People, which is an adult thriller. This one is about a guy whose daughter was kidnapped and he has been driving up and down the same road trying to find her, or trying to find the same van that took her. I haven't loved all of CJ Tudor's books, so I'm not entirely sure about this one, but I think the concept does sound really good, so if she manages to pull it off then I think I'm going to really enjoy it. The next one is House of Earth and Blood, which is the first book in Sarah J Maas's first adult fantasy series, and I think this is more urban fantasy. I think the main character is half fae and half human, and the love interest is a fallen angel, which is something I haven't seen in urban fantasy fiction in years. I remember there was this fallen angel trend back in I think 2010 when I first joined BookTube. Everyone was going crazy for them. There were various different series like Hush Hush and Fallen. Looking back they were probably a bit problematic, but I did really enjoy Hush Hush when I first read it. But anyway, this book is, like I said, urban fantasy. I haven't really read the synopsis, I just want to read it because it's Sarah J Maas and I really enjoy the Throne of Glass series, or I did when I first started reading it. Again, quite a few years ago. I haven't finished it and I really don't like A Court of Thorns and Roses, so maybe I wouldn't enjoy it now. I want to try out this book is what I'm saying. The City We Became, which is N.K. Jemisin's new book. I'm not sure if it's part of a series or trilogy, but it's a new urban fantasy book set in New York City, and in this fantasy world I think cities have souls. New York has 5 protectors and then something awful's going to happen, something evil's probably going to arise, and the 5 protectors have to protect the city. The Gilded Ones, which, look at that cover, that's half the reason I'm excited for this one. I think this is YA fantasy. It's about a girl whose blood runs gold instead of red, and that means that she is an outsider and has magical powers. One day this mysterious old lady asks her to fight for the emperor, and she does, along with an army of other people who have magical powers. I will admit I am mostly interested in this one because of the cover, but I also think it sounds really good, so I'm going to be checking it out when it comes out. The Glass Hotel, which is written by the same author who did Station 11. I enjoyed Station 11, I gave it 3 stars when I read it, but it's also one of those books that has really stuck with me. I read it years ago but I still find myself thinking about it from time to time, so I'm really interested in reading this one. I'm not entirely sure what it's about. It says here that it's a captivating story of crisis and survival. The Glass Hotel is a captivating portrait of greed and guilt, love and delusion, ghosts and unintended consequences, and the infinite ways we search for meaning in our lives. So I think it's going to be good. She's quite a talented writer, so I'm looking forward to reading this one. The Silence of Bones, which is YA. It's an historical fiction mystery, I think. It's set in historical Korea and the main character has to look into the murder of a woman, a noble woman. I think that's what makes it stand out. The Other Misses, which is an adult thriller. This one is about a family who move into a really old house and it's creepy. It's got a creepy attic and horrible things start to happen there, but one of their neighbours is found dead. This new family become the suspects because I guess the other neighbours think it's a bit weird that they've moved into a neighbourhood and then all of a sudden someone dies. The Court of Miracles, which is Les Mis meets The Jungle Book, which is an interesting mixture. I think this is pretty much a Les Mis retelling but with fantasy elements. It seems to be alternate history and it has also been likened to The Lies of Locke Lamora, which is one of my favourite books, and that's probably why I'm most excited for this one, even though I don't tend to enjoy or read many books set in France. It's just not my favourite setting. A Beginning at the End, which came out in January. This one is science fiction and also post-apocalyptic, so in this world a global pandemic has wiped out most of the human population. 4 people are brought together and they have to kind of rebuild society or their lives. I think it sounds really good. I really enjoy post-apocalyptic fiction. Mike Chan has released a book previously and that got some really good reviews, and I still haven't read it yet, but I do really want to. This one also sounds really good. Moment of Truth by Casey West. I just put this on here because I haven't read a Casey West book in quite a while and I kind of want to read some more of her work, especially because I always turn to her work when I'm in the mood for a fluffy YA contemporary, and that's probably what this one's going to be. I think the main character is a swimmer, and during one of the swim meets a masked boy shows up. He's dressed up as someone else and she has to figure out who this masked boy is. I think that's what I get from the synopsis. It's not entirely clear. It reminds me a bit of Cinderella, I guess, except gender swapped. Bitter Falls, which is the 4th book in the Stillhouse Lake series. I do talk about this more in my new releases video for January if you want to go and check that out. But basically this is the 4th book in the series, so I can't really say much. I will say that in the 1st book, Stillhouse Lake, the main character is a woman whose husband has been convicted of murder. She and her children have had to go into hiding because 1, people keep blaming her and saying that she was also involved in the murders. Like, how could she not be? So they come after her for that. And then 2, her husband's fanboys keep coming after her as well because she's not standing by her murderous husband. It's a really good book and I really enjoyed the 2nd book as well. The 3rd book was not so great. It took the series into a bit of a different direction and I'm not really sure where it's going to go, but I guess Bitter Falls will show me. 8 Perfect Murders. This is about someone who works at a bookstore and he has compiled a list of the 8 perfect murders, so in fiction, so the unsolvable crimes, and then the FBI start investigating him, and then there's also a killer following him around. I'm not really sure where the killer comes into that, whether they're wanting to kill him because he's obsessed with crime or for some other reason. I'm not entirely sure, but I'm looking forward to reading this one. Queen of Coin and Whispers, which is YA FF fantasy. This is about a teenager who inherited a kingdom from her corrupt uncle, and I think the kingdom is bankrupt and she has to sort of bring it back to life and revive it. And then there's another main character who's undoubtedly going to be the love interest, and she's seeking revenge for the murder of one of her family members, I think her father. The next book is one that I don't really need to talk about that much, and I'm also not going to because I haven't read most of the series, and that is the Stormlight Archive number 4. So I read the 1st book and half of the 2nd, but I haven't carried on with the series because I realised as I was reading the 2nd book that I needed to reread The Way of Kings. So I'm going to go ahead and hopefully do that this year, and then I should be able to catch up in time for the 4th book to come out, which I think is coming out in November. That is when this series tends to release. I really enjoy Brandon Sanderson's writing and I know that I'm going to really enjoy this series. It's just I also know that it's going to be 10 books long and this is only book number 4. I don't really want to catch up too quickly, which is kind of why I've been putting it off. But I think 2020 will be the year that I do that. The Sundown Motel, which is a mystery book. I think it basically uncovers some mysteries that are happening around this motel. Again, I don't really want to look too much into this one because it's a mystery thriller and I don't want to be spoiled by the synopsis. Incendiary. This one is YA fantasy. It's about a main character who is kidnapped and taken to a palace, and she has to kind of work her way through the courts and figure out what the palace politics are and how exactly she's going to fit in there. And I think she also had like memory loss when she was a child, and then these memories start coming back to her and she realises probably who she really is, which I imagine is going to be a princess, but don't quote me on that. I'm really looking forward to this one because I'm looking for some more YA fantasy series to binge read, so I might not get to this in 2020, but it's one that I'm looking forward to reading. Be Not Far From Me, which is Mindy McGuinness's next book. I really enjoy her writing and I think this one is up on NetGalley or Edelweiss, so I will be picking this one up very soon. It's about a group of teenagers who go camping and the main character finds her boyfriend sleeping or getting with another girl, and she goes off and then has to survive in the wilderness because she gets lost or there's some sort of emergency. Mindy McGuinness always writes really good books and a lot of them are very heartbreaking and kind of raw, so I'm looking forward to reading this one a lot. Finally, the last of my most anticipated releases for 2020 is Marloie. This is the sequel to Bird Box, which I read in 2018 I think, and I gave it 5 stars. I really enjoyed it. It's horror about people who now live in the world, a world where these monsters can kill you and send you mad, but you can't look at them, so people have to go around with blindfolds on because if you look at these monsters, bad things will happen. I really enjoyed the first one because it ended in such a way that you don't really know what's going on, or you don't get any conclusion. That got to me a bit. I don't normally like stories like that, but I think it worked really well with this one. So I'm not really sure how Mallory is going to go, because I did think that Bird Box ended really well, and I'm not really sure it needed a sequel, but I'm excited for it nonetheless, and I'm probably going to try to reread Bird Box before I pick this one up, because I think it will be good to do that. I did watch the film and I didn't love it as much. It was quite intense, but it changed some things, and I think the general vibe was off, because the whole point of the horror of the book was that you didn't know what was coming to get you, or what the monsters looked like, if they were even monsters, maybe they were just people, and one of your senses was taken away, and I think that was really difficult to pull off in the film. I might actually do a book to movie comparison review of those, because I really enjoyed them both, but I enjoyed the book so much more. Those are the 19 books that I'm really looking forward to coming out in 2020. Let me know what your most anticipated books are in the comments below, and let me know if you've done one of these videos, because I want to come and check it out and find some more books to put on this list. Thank you so much for watching. I will speak to you all in my next video. Bye!